Oh, he's technically Mexican and 3/4 American, but for 3 generations he's got that nationality. Great-great-grandpa south, whose kids had kids then turned around. It's not what the show's about, but it's why he's Mexican technically. He helps that he was raised in New Mexico, lived in Guadalajara for 2 years, speaks fluent Spanish with a bachelor's degree in language, and examine keto.
Hello.
That explains everything.
I forgot that I had that intro loaded up, and now I'm kind of embarrassed. We got a serious person on the show, and
oh yeah, I'm mega serious. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everyone. We're doing a special live stream on Wednesday night or Thursday day in Australia.
Morning. Yep.
Because the wonderful Michael Bancroft has agreed to come on the channel and talk about his comic book, The Lucent. I should probably put you up top. Oh, that's not
thank
the right
you.
place. There you go.
There you go.
Actually, my good side, so it's perfect.
So we've got a bunch of viewers coming from the Angry Mex's channel, and from mine, and from I see looks like some of your people too, Bancroft. I just barely discovered your channel, and I thought it looked awesome. And then I saw you had a little comic book campaign going, and it looked really cool. And you were nice enough to say you'd be willing to come talk to us about it.
I love talking about myself. Let's do it.
Yeah, this is the Narcissistics Anonymous.
I know, right? Yeah, it's good. Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you, fellas. It's great to be here.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
We're constantly complaining on our weekly live stream about the current state of media and Marvel and DC and Disney.
We're gonna fit right in then.
And just all of the garbage stuff coming from garbage companies that hate us for our values. And so anytime I find something like this, I want to sing its praises. Your comic book looks awesome.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I work really hard on it, and I didn't start it, because I wanted to,
right,
fight against all this garbage. I actually started it way before I knew this is where the culture was headed. It just ended up working out like that, and this is how I fight it, by putting out just a piece of pure escapist entertainment in graphic novel form, and I think that's usually the best way to do it. You just, because that's the way you're going to reach the most people. People just want entertainment. Good entertainment, the way it's free from the lecturing and the hectoring and the overt weird messaging. You won't find any of that in any of the things that I produce. So yeah, this is it all just ended up working out kind of well. I mean, I know we complain about this stuff a lot, but if you're an independent, now is the time, because
really it is.
Mainstream is dropping the ball hard here.
Well, my brother and I are kind of in the same story. We've always loved comic books, but we were always way too poor to participate in comic books.
Yep.
We could never afford to buy them. So our only exposure, we were two privileged white boys who couldn't afford, couldn't afford floppies, right?
That white privilege will get you.
Our exposure to comic books was we would run to the library sometimes like 3 or 4 times a week, and literally just check out every single book that they had available, and then wait for the other kids to bring their copies back and check those out too. So we were beggars,
Yeah, I didn't have. I didn't really think they had them at the library. But what I had to do is
we had a good library.
Yeah,
my mother would give me money to ride the bus and get lunch there at school, and I would walk lunch. A month, that would be enough money so that when the new books came in, I could come in with a big stack of coins and buy books. That's how I got into comics.
Nice.
That's
That
bracket there.
life comics finds a way, right?
Exactly.
I
So-
mean, I didn't have like access to comic book stores in Mexico. There are no comic book stores, and we didn't have basically books.
Well, this
in
is
our
back when they were
library,
on the
so-
newsstand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But even in my town, there was only one newsstand in the whole town, and it was like in the middle of nowhere. So, but
Mm.
Aries. So I downloaded a lot of of, of free comic books. You know, like what is it called? Watchmen. That's what my first
Watchmen?
comic book because I
Mhm.
found it free in Aries and LimeWare, all those boomer
Yep.
services, and I got those for free. And yeah, it was a great read.
yeah.
Everyone's got to do what they got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna bring my stack of comic books, but now I'm finally in a position where I'm getting a little bit of YouTube money, and so I've wanted to start collecting some of the old stuff that I missed and some of the ones that I liked when I was a kid. But the stuff that's currently out there is just so repulsive that I want to spend my money on comics, guys, but none of it. None of this
Yeah,
is
you
good.
kind of missed the boat on that. I actually kind of dropped out of comics in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
I hear they got a bit bad, and then again in the whoa, did I lose my camera?
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
We
can't
still
run
hear
out.
you, but we lost your video feed.
Oh, what happened there? Hold on a
yeah.
sec. How do I edit that video? Settings. Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's all good.
No problem.
I'll fill. It's okay. I've been buying like the classic stuff. Like I just got the full collection
There we
of the Death of Superman because I remember reading that one at like our school book club where they come into your school and try and get you to sell books and I remember when that first the floppy came out, the Death of Superman, and I read the whole thing in the store. So I just got all of those so I can go back and read them as an adult.
Yeah, when I dropped out of buying new stuff, that's what I did. I went back and I bought stuff from the 70s and the 80s, and it's great.
It is.
That was really, to me, that was the peak. I know a lot of people love the 90s. The 90s was when I got into comics. That was good too, but for me, going back and reading the 80s stuff, that was the pinnacle for me.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how the art developed a little bit in the 90s. Like that's what I was eating when I was I was a kid.
Yeah.
I love the old stuff for the storytelling. But I did like how the art kind of got a little bit better in the 90s. At least they put more attention to like coloring and stuff. So I like a lot of 90s comics.
Yeah, I loved it at the start of the 90s. There was still, you know what it was? It was the computer coloring.
Yeah.
You brought it in. Now, I love coloring now, but at the start in the early 90s, they didn't really know what they were doing with it or how to do it, or maybe the programs weren't right. And I really wasn't a fan of it. I preferred the old flat colors that they had coming brought from the 80s. But now I love seeing these new guys who are doing 90s style work, but with modern colors. It's a match made in heaven. It's good stuff.
No, and that's why your comic looks incredible. I should have pulled up.
Thank you, man.
Because I do love, there's good stuff everywhere, but I've been trying to find the good stuff now, and there just isn't a whole lot outside of independent comics. So,
yeah, there is a little bit. It's not like all of comics has completely been captured. Still some people who are managing to just make their books the way they want to. They usually it's getting fewer and far between. Usually now it's these companies are more or less completely captured, and the people they're hiring are all of the one ideology. They've got that agenda. They're not really interested in art. They're not really interested in telling good stories and stuff like that. So that is the majority of what's coming out from the mainstream, and that's evidenced by if you watch people who do YouTube shows on talking about current day Marvel, DC. I mean, it's just wall to wall. They're pulling their hair out and how bad it is.
Well, aside from the storying, even like the artwork I've
Hello,
seen
Loot.
from these modern artists it's not good. It's sloppy, and they have all these tools that make things easier, like you mentioned, the modern coloring, and they're not using it well. Like
Yeah, we
Well, I
pointed
think
out several examples.
away a lot of the. Sorry, David.
I was saying we pointed out several examples on our show of modern comics from DC and Marvel, and like the faces are just way out of proportion. Like they were just rushed. And you get some of that in like some of the early comics, when they were just pumping them out. And back then they had good stories, but the coloring wasn't, the inking and the coloring wasn't, super
Yeah, I
great.
think back then,
regressing.
back then, a lot of the anatomical or art issues were to do exactly with that. It was
Right.
to do with the pace, and the artists were developing and learning the visual language. Now it's a choice, and
Right.
what you got is you got a lot of people working in comics who are being propped up in comics, who are there. They have no interest in comics. They didn't grow up reading comics. They don't. It's not. They like the kind of prestige, the idea that comics. They get a lot of movies and TV shows get made from comics. I want to become a comic book writer, so I want to get into that scene, even though I have no real interest in this medium. I have no real love for it. And they view the whole thing with this sort of antiquated, silly Billy, campy idea of what comics is, so they don't take it seriously, and they actually really don't like. You talk about a lot of people working in the mainstream or even in sort of other independents. You find this a lot on Twitter. They actually really dislike good comic art. They find that as really kind of tacky and lowbrow. They think it's more highbrow artistically to not care. That's really their view on it, and also they legitimately view comics as a joke, so they want to treat the books as a joke, and that's evidenced in what we see out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what possessed you to jump in?
I'd been writing a story
Why?
for years. Yeah, I know, right? Who would be crazy?
Why on earth would you do this? This sounds like a bad idea.
It sounds like a lot of work, is what it sounds like. And I found out that it was
really
more
does.
work than I could ever imagine.
Especially without the backing
man.
of the big studios, that.
Yeah. I had this story that I sort of had floating around in my head for things like forever. And I always wanted to tell it. I wasn't even thinking about comics at the time. And I started writing it probably just as a novel or whatever. And I was just writing, and it was all terrible. And I was doing this for years and years in my spare time. But I believed in the story. I thought there was something there. Even if I couldn't write well, at least there was something to this story. So I kept going. And then eventually I ran into, I show these off on every stream because they're sitting right next to me. I ran into these things, French graphic novels. They come in these hardcover album formats. They're oversized. They're a lot bigger than a regular comic. And they blew my mind, because I'd grown up on little floppy Spider-Man comics and stuff like that. So I didn't even know that this stuff existed. And I immediately saw my story in them. And I thought, can I do it? This is it. This is my story. Can I actually do that? And then I just, without thinking about it, said, just screw it. I'll just do it. I'll figure it out along the way. And I had no idea at that point. This was sort of 2014. I had no idea what was going on in the industry at that point.
And you hadn't participated in the industry. You weren't working.
No.
Okay.
No, nothing. I go into YouTube and I was like, how do you draw a head? Sort of thing, and just started watching videos.
You weren't even a good artist yet.
I was an artist, but mostly T-shirts and stuff like that. I definitely hadn't drawn any sequential art or anything like that. But I'd always drawn. I knew how to draw, but not on this scale. So quite literally, I've actually got it right here. I can show you. The first drawing I ever did for the book is on the very first page of the book, and it's that guy's head there. That was it. And this was the second drawing. I can't do this mirror. This is the second drawing. This is the third drawing. This is the fourth drawing, and it's gone like that throughout the book.
Wow.
learning on the job, so to speak.
Wow.
And but there's YouTube now. If you want to learn and you want to know how to do anything, just go onto YouTube. There'll be someone there who can tell you how to figure out how to draw hands or foreshortening and perspective and backgrounds and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't happen overnight, but gradually you pick things up and eventually you've got something.
That's amazing.
People are always surprised when I tell that story because most people usually do things for years and years and years. But I know I was already in my mid-30s when I started, so I was like, I got to jump in. I know these things are going to take ages to make. So yeah, if I'm drawing, it's going into the book.
That's very surprising. Because I'm looking at your artwork now from the Kickstarter, and I could not tell. This looks.
Yeah.
There's a specific drawing that I'm seeing, a page where there's like thousands of skulls hand drawn, probably.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted.
Oh
Okay, I
my
wanted to ask you about
God.
that later too. You didn't draw all of those skulls by hand, right? There's copy and pasting,
Well-
like maybe from like 30 different variations.
I drew, so the way it is, it's vaulted ceilings, yeah. So there's these panels of skulls that go up. I think I drew every single one on about 5 panels. Every panel that's in
Okay.
that perspective needs to
Okay.
get drawn, and then I did end up doing some copying and pasting. I'm totally not above
for the
copying
ones in
and
the
pasting.
for
anyone
ones
knows.
in the distance, right? I saw
Yeah,
that
exactly.
panel.
They're going
I
to be
saw
so
that panel.
small.
You
I
can
wanted to
kind
bring
of
up-
tell those that are like hand drawn, right?
It looks-
Well, I mean, they do get the ones that are copied and pasted, sort of like they get shrunk and they're put to the back.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
by the time it goes to print, it'll look perfectly fine.
no,
Mhm.
I saw that panel. I was like, no, there's no way. Like this looks really, really good.
Yeah, it looks perfect. Yeah, I
And on
thought
top
that they
of all
were
the
all
skulls,
hand drawn.
you've got the whole the writing scratched into the walls and stuff. I'm like, this just
Yeah.
This looks like a nightmare.
Yeah, I call it my drawtism. I don't know where it comes from, but I don't know. I just like doing these really detailed backgrounds. It's part of building up the world. Because the idea with the comic book is this is actually happening out there in our world. We just can't see it. So I need to present you, the reader, a really realistic impression of the world that you know, so that you can then, when you're reading the story, imagine, oh, this is actually happening out there. We're just unaware of it. They're the sort of the stories that I like.
Really. Just to give the viewers some context, is what we're talking about.
There they are.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's
Well,
also
every
very-
single one of the skulls at the front there, every single one of those skulls at the front were drawn.
Mhm.
And actually,
That's
I
too
wanted to
much.
make this a
I wouldn't
print.
have done that. I would have copied and pasted. I would have drawn like 30 and just moved them around.
No, you'd be able to tell. I think. And actually, those panels are covering up more skulls that were drawn. So I actually drew skulls that
I was
you're not
gonna
even
ask that,
seeing,
yeah.
but I will eventually put them into a print, so you will be able to see them. I just haven't gotten
Wow.
around to that yet.
Oh, I love this panel.
That's beautiful.
It is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen. Yes.
I also
In a
just
Oh,
like
thank you. Yeah, that's awesome to
Yeah.
hear.
It is definitely yes.
I like the aesthetic as well. Like it looks very intriguing. Can people buy the first book outside of the Kickstarter, or is this the only way they can get it right now? Or it's not a Kickstarter.
Right now, this is the place to get it. So this
Right.
is my own site, thelucentcomic.com. If you guys are familiar with Eric July and what he's doing with the
Yeah.
Rippaverse, he similarly did it on his own site. It's very, very much the same.
You-
The answer is yes. You can buy it and get it now. If you just buy this is the book here. If you just buy this, yeah, I'll ship it out tomorrow. If you buy it with the second book, you're going to have to wait. That's just sort of how it goes.
yeah, I bought the,
because
bu-
I'll
I bought
charge
the
you.
bundle.
Yeah, yeah. But I have had a couple of people who are like, I don't want to wait. I'll just actually, if you buy the digital, I'll send you out the first book in digital. So I'm
Okay.
doing that sort of week by week.
But
If you don't want to
if
wait
you just
to
buy
read
the
it.
first book right now, that gets sent. That's cool.
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Just buy
Yeah,
it.
issues? How many
Yeah.
issues do you have planned for this series?
So this arc is 5 books. And we're up to the second one at the moment. This is the biggest book. This is a 100-page book. The first one was 60. I'll probably go back to 60 after this because 100 is just, I mean, it is insane.
Yeah.
But I think it's worthwhile in a sequel to really kind of give, because people got intrigued in the first one, but they want more. Now I want to give them a lot more meat on the bone, and and then hopefully by the end of the second book they'll be all right. I'm in. Let's finish this story off, and then they'll be coming back for the subsequent ones. But
just really quickly, thanks Mark Clark for the super chat. You are the best, our resident channel member.
I agree with you, Peter. I agree with you, Peter. If I have money, I will donate to the campaign right now.
What's
outside the U.S.?
Yeah. I ship everywhere. I got worldwide shipping on this. It's $15 flat shipping, no matter what you get. So obviously, it makes more sense to buy a bundle, because then the shipping is less compared to the amount of the bundle. So if you just buy the one book, it's $15 shipping. If you buy 4 books, it's $15 shipping. And actually, if you come back and want to buy more stuff, just say you want a T-shirt or a puzzle or whatever.
I do want a puzzle.
Well, then you can add to it as well. And even if you make multiple orders, if you type in free shipping after your first order, because I only want you ever paying $15 shipping. Because I know the shipping across multiple campaigns, a lot of people are backing a lot of campaigns. This, it really does add up, and it really becomes a hindrance to growth. So I really don't want to kind of gouge people on the shipping. And yeah, you can add all sorts of fun stuff. We've got T-shirts, puzzles, little ashcan books and stuff, hardcovers, soft covers. So much to choose from.
Bancroft is no puto when it comes to shipping.
That was really
nice.
Good. Apparently, that's coming from your love child there, Bancroft.
Yes, yeah, that's Brian. I was telling you about Brian earlier. Actually, he's the guy with all the Spanish and Mexican friends, Latino friends.
Yo, bring them to my channel, bro. They're gonna love my channel.
There you go.
This is the other panel that really impressed me. I love what you did with the perspective and the visor and this just looks
that's
really good.
That's kind of the cool things we can do now that they couldn't really do earlier. I can draw something and then warp it around the thing that we just didn't really have that ability earlier. So that's why I always say, like, this is really an amazing time to get into making and selling books. The opportunities we have that previous generations didn't. To do crazy stuff like that.
Doing a lot of different
the cover
kind of
from
art,
the first one too, with the warping on this one. The fisheye lens.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's it looks good.
Yeah, like literally I cannot decide which is better, like that one or the other one that looks so eerie. Yeah.
Yeah, well, cool. That's good.
They're both really good.
I like that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you. You mentioned the hardcover singles that you got that kind of inspired you. But were there any other comics that inspired you, either in creating your own story or just other ones that you really like, and emulate a little bit?
There's not really any
which ones to buy. That's what we want.
Yeah, right.
Not really any that inspired my story directly. I grew up reading comics, but I sort of did. I stuck to reading Spider-Man and Ghost Rider books and stuff like that. A bit of X-Men here and there. I did kind of leave them behind as a teenager. But I do have, I still love a whole bunch of like older 80s Spider-Man. There's Craven books. There's Hobgoblin series and stuff like that. I like all the classics as well, Watchmen, stuff like that. But more than anything, I've been inspired much more by, I'd say, movies and stuff. And I think a lot of people see that in my comic. They say it's very cinematic. I get inspired by cinematography and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I when I first saw your comic book, I think it reminded me of I don't know if you've heard of Sojourn. Yeah, it's a
No.
comic. It's a comic made by CrossGen that went out of business, so they never
Oh, yeah.
finished They got canceled. They never finished it. But it was one of the few comics that they had at our library, and just the art style, just and the coloring, just really.
Yeah, it was really
brought,
good. Actually,
I saw your book and I was like, oh, I felt like a kid again.
yeah,
I wanted to.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I got that exact feeling when I found these French books. I think the whole world just opened up to me. I got struck by lightning. And what's funny about the French books are, I was in a supermarket, standing in a shampoo aisle, and then I looked around, and right behind me was this whole bunch of French books. They just sell them everywhere, and that's why they have such a great scene over there. You can get them everywhere. And it was just such an unusual place to find inspiration. But that's amazing to hear that you had that experience looking at my stuff. I mean, I get inspired like that when I see other independent creators making awesome stuff, even if their work doesn't influence what I'm doing directly. I definitely find inspiration with the fact that they're doing it, and that they're out there, they're doing their own books in their own style and finding lots of success doing it.
It's very inspiring to see this kind of stuff. I'm trying to work on a music album that's like over a decade old, and just seeing this kind of success, like, oh yeah, people can do stuff. Like, I just gotta get to it.
It's a whole new world at the moment, especially when you marry in YouTube with it. The possibilities seem endless, whereas before that was the final hurdle. That was the final thing that was keeping independence tethered to the system,
because there was no way of getting the word out.
Exactly. There was no choice. You had to keep your mouth shut and play along and go along with whatever they were saying. And now you really don't. You can get out there and find your own audience on YouTube. Speaking of music, you can look at probably the biggest success would be Tom McDonald, who's sells a gazillion copies every time now. Yeah, and he's done that pretty much independently through YouTube.
So speaking of independent creators, you mentioned Eric July with the Rippaverse, and lately there've been a slew of other independent creators that are starting to make their own content, like you and like Eric July. Are there any modern comics creators that you know of that you could recommend as good storytellers that don't fall prey to the woke mobs? You'd like to plug?
Well, check out Comicsgate. Comicsgate is a loosely affiliated group of radical independents who are constantly at each other's throat, which is how it should be, I think, because Comicsgate is the vocal kind of forefront of people who are trying to fight against what's happened in comic books. I would suggest, actually, everyone knows, most people know about Ethan Van Sciver and Cyberfrog. That's a book I do recommend. I'm really into the Cyberfrog universe, and though Ethan's whole approach there is to just absolutely blow people away with the product that you get, and all the stuff that you get in it, and just the sheer quality of the actual thing. But I also really I'm really into the story now. It's only two books in, but I'm really into it now. There's other guys I want to point. I mean, we're on the Technically Mexican channel. Can I point out 656 Comics? These guys are a bunch of guys from down at the border there. I think some of them might be in Mexico. But they put out a book last year called Cryptidnals. They crowdfunded it, which blew me away. A phenomenal graphic novel. It was so good they actually broke it up into floppy comics and are now selling it through the direct market. And by all accounts, it's doing really well. I'd also shout out Von Klaus, who's about to start shipping his new book, Terror in the Trenches. He's done two big books. I think both of them broke 100K or got pretty close to it. Phenomenal writer, puts out amazing stuff. I mean, really, there's so many to start mentioning. Really, what are you interested in? Do you like horror? Do you like art? Do you like what is it? Come check out my channel, Michael Bancroft. Check out any kind of CG channels or channels that are sort of in that sphere. There's so much good stuff being put out, but the whole problem is, how do you get people to notice it and see it? That's really the hard thing.
You're right, Black Rose. There's such a great comic book culture in the north of Mexico, in Juarez, in
I think that's where
Sonora,
they're
in
from.
Tijuana, Tijuana, Monterrey. Yeah, there's a lot of great comic book stores, and a lot of comic book culture.
They're great guys too. I've had them on my channel a dozen times, and it's always a lot of fun. It gets a little bit crazy.
Nice.
We put on sombreros, and I drink tequila. And
Arriba.
my wife is in the chat, Melanie B. She's pointing out Adam Lawson. He's another really awesome guy. He put out a book with Wesley Snipes.
Oh wow!
And
it's
actually an official Wesley Snipes book, and he's doing a whole bunch of other stuff. He's just such a cool guy, putting out great work. Always focus on quality. And this is just a tiny inkling of the scene that's happening out there that we're trying to push out into the universe. But it is hard. But on top of the fact that comics are a bit niche in terms of entertainment, and it is hard to get people to look into them, and especially if they haven't read them before. Eric July has done more than anyone, I think, in that regard. But on top of that, you've got the Marxists who are in control of the greater industry, telling everyone, "Oh, they're don't go look over there. They're all racists, alt-right, misogynists over there, transphobes. Don't look over there." So then you got people who are kind of stuck in the middle, saying, "Well, I like what you're doing here, but I don't want to be seen hanging out with you." So,
Yeah, the fear is a very effective tactic to draw people away from this kind of thing. It was the Exiled is the one you mentioned with the Wesley Snipes, right?
The Exiled, yeah.
Yeah, I had heard about
it. I was going to do a piece of art for that, but I just ran out of time. I regret not being able to get involved in that campaign because it went absolutely bananas, and it's continuing to. I think he's selling mainstream numbers in comic book shops with the individual issues. So he's doing incredibly well.
Yeah. Well, your campaign just crossed 45,000, right?
46.
Nice.
46? Oh yeah.
Just yesterday.
Wow. So that's
it's pretty unbelievable considering we start from nothing a lot of the time. I mean, I know I did. I had no connections to the industry, no following on social media. You just put one foot in front of the next and start building up that audience and start building up that reputation. And it probably is going to take you a little bit longer if people don't know who you are and you don't have any track record or they've never seen any of your previous work because you don't have any. But I'm happy to be that example of someone who did something pretty unusual. It's not making that amount of money on a book is not common for people who are not previous industry professionals who have a big name already. So I'm really blessed in that regard.
How much did the first campaign make? It was on the first book came out for
the first book was on Indiegogo. That was a few years back. That was the original Waking Dream cover. I've got that floating around somewhere. It's not this cover. It's a different one. That was the first edition. Then ended up on the 60-day period. We ended up, I think it was at 20,000 over 60 days. And then the cool thing about In-Demand is it lets you keep it up there as a sort of an online store. Indiegogo, it lets you keep it up in demand. They call it. It's an online store.
Oh,
exactly. And so I think it was up for about a year and a half, and people they would buy it and I'd ship it out. And I think we ended up selling 1,000 copies for $45,000 all up. Or maybe 40,000. So I've in a couple of weeks, I've sold more on this campaign on my own site than I did in a year and a half on Indiegogo a few years back.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And as that was happening, it was pretty shocking. You know, I was launching it on my channel, and it was going crazy, and we realized, oh wow, the first 60-day campaign period, full 60 days on the first book, we smashed past that in 6 hours. So that was like, yeah, that was pretty nuts.
Yeah, I found you through. You're probably not going to like it. I found you through one of your YouTube shorts. And I know everyone hates making shorts.
I love it. I'm all about the shorts. I actually really love the format. I used to make videos, and that was fine, and they did well, but they didn't go gangbusters. And I don't know, there's something about having to be that concise.
Yeah,
I don't know. I dig it. Yeah, I like it.
I've had a lot of success with shorts, but I feel like it doesn't bring viewers onto like the rest of the channel.
Yeah, I don't think
it's
I don't
yeah,
like the
they
way
stay
that
in the
YouTube
shorts.
presents the shorts. I like the short format. I don't like the way that the YouTube handles them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah.
But look, here's the thing.
Thanks for tuning into the stream. The Underground is they're great YouTubers, and they're gonna pick up your book. So.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks you
for
very
tuning
much,
in.
Underground.
Talk to you guys later.
Yeah.
I was originally thinking, oh, maybe I can do the shorts, and then I'll get a small selection of those people to come over and hang out my live streams and stuff. Yeah. I've since I haven't abandoned that. It's just that I understand that it's kind of two different audiences. But what I have found
very different audience. Yeah.
What I have found is I can get 5,000 to 10,000 people watching a short on a comic, which is unprecedented. You know, I would never have been able to put out a video and get that. Never put out a video and get 10,000 people to watch a video about selling comic books or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, a view is a view, and I've seen people coming.
It worked on me. I bought your comic from
there you go.
Short.
There you go. Exactly.
Your shorts are really well made, though.
Yeah, thanks. I just kind of stumbled on that, and people said after the fact, you know, no one's really doing what you're doing. You're doing kind of like what Yellow Flash does, or Clownfish, or any one of those guys, you know, on Friday Night Tights or whatever. But you're doing it in a short format. You know, no one had really thought to do that. Most people just kind of cut down their live streams and do a little clip. But there is actually a kind of a method to how you do it that I think I've kind of really gotten to the rhythm of, and found some pretty amazing success on some of them.
Well, I'm gonna get inspired by watching those shorts, because I'm trying to do some shorts. I have none.
Yeah, you gotta get to it.
I'm definitely gonna try and do the same thing when I finish my album this year. So it's a great way of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I remember I was watching Az, and Az was sipping a cup of tea and just saying what he was going to do that day. I mean, it was literally the most pointless short ever. But he had 20,000 views on it. I was like, how do I get to the point where I can put out a short and have 20,000 people watching it? I was like, well, I guess I got to really start pumping these out. And imagine I could, instead of just saying what I'm doing that day, imagine I could be talking about my book or this other book or whatever, and and the cool thing about it is they're not people who watch my streams. So it's new people who haven't seen me before. They have no idea who I am or what I do. So yeah, there's great potential there. So I'm pretty excited about the future of the channel and the kind of growth. Obviously, clearly the growth that I've seen from book 1 to book 2 is pretty phenomenal. So I must be doing something right.
You are. I'm super excited to get my copies. The story looks cool. What can you tell us about the story, like the elevator pitch to people who are interested, without spoiling anything, obviously?
So the whole series, you want to look at the greater series. It's about this. There's this secret knowledge, and the only way to tap into it is through your dreams. But this has kind of been hidden. Now, I'm giving you a lot more than what you're necessarily going to get when you read the book, but I just want to sort of set the scene.
Yeah.
This will become more apparent as you read the stories. But essentially, you've got this character, Ella, the main character. She doesn't know anything about this. All she knows is that when she goes to sleep and dreams, she has these pretty wild dreams where she meets with this guy and they do these crazy things together. To her, it's just a dream. At the end of the first book, that all kind of comes crashing out, and she realizes that the dream, what's happening is, what's happening in the dreams has some connection to real life, and there's this whole secret world that she is not privy to at the moment, and it spans all of civilization, going back thousands and thousands of years. So there's this secret order, this ancient secret order that's kind of been controlling everything, and essentially at the end of the first book, she is now out. People know about her now. They know that she has this ability, and it's something that they want to take control of or control or whatever. And that's where we kick off into the second book. She is Alice falling down the rabbit hole. She is becoming aware of this world, and as the reader, you're becoming aware of it along with her. That's this kind of the way it's paced. So as she learns about all this crazy stuff, you'll learn about it too. Obviously, everyone around her already knows all this stuff. So that's where the kind of exactly.
Sounds great.
Yeah, a lot like Luke Skywalker. Learning about the Jedi and the Force, or Neo learning about the Matrix. That's the way it's kind of structured. So in Paint to Death, in the second one, she's kind of being hunted down essentially, because she's sort of exposed herself as this hidden, power, even though she doesn't understand how any of it works, or wasn't even trying to do it. So yeah, that's kind of the pitch of what the story is.
It's a good pitch.
Can't wait. I'm super excited. Do you have a timeline for, or do you know like how many parts it's going to be, or how frequently?
So it's going to be 5 parts. It's going to be 5 parts. That'll be her story. Right. If we want to go back to Star Wars, there's the greater galaxy and everything. But the first 3 movies, it was Luke Skywalker's story. So that's what this will be. There'll be 5 books on that. I will have other books in the interim. Same universe. I'm working on right now. Yeah. Same characters, same universe. Sometimes other side characters. That's because each of these books do take me a long time to produce. I am the writer, artist, and colorist. I also work a full-time job, so it's not as though I can dedicate 15 hours a day to getting these things done. I've got to sort of do it in my spare time. So these things do usually take me from the time that the campaigns launch to, about a year to get them into your hands. In the meantime, I've got other artists working on other things. So that I'm hoping as the ball gets rolling that, I'll be able to get more out, once a year or something like that.
All right,
but for the main story, 5 books.
And the other, are you doing like the stuff you said other artists were working on? Is that all going to be in the same universe, or just other stories? Yeah.
No, I'm only interested in this story. it's part of me now. It's who I am. I've been carrying this thing around with me for over a decade now. It's really all I'm interested in. I want to do one story brilliantly, epically, like Tolkien did.
Yeah.
And it's really all I'm interested in. And so, if we get to the end of the books and there's interest in it and people still want it, we'll see where we go from there. But at least for now, this is what I'm 100% focused on.
That's great. I think Hollywood needs to do that more. And
that's another thing. Actually, I was thinking about doing a short about that.
And just tell a good story, and if people like it, then maybe you do more.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like that's how artists work. And a lot of the best stuff that came out of Hollywood over previous decades was visionaries with an idea. And they had Hollywood money, but they were really steering the ship. I think what's happening now is the studios buy those properties and hire outside people to kind of try and recreate the magic, and it never works, or almost never works. But yeah, you know, it really does take one vision to get something good out. And I think we're seeing that play out all over the place in all kinds of mediums.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It certainly seems like these indie authors are just popping up every week. I hear of another one. I'm like, oh, I just never heard of them before. That's awesome. I'm excited. If there's one thing I've learned from the stream, it's that I'm going to buy your books. If there's a second thing I learned from the stream, bro, I think we might need to bring back our comic that we wrote when we were like.
Oh yeah. What was
you guys have one?
Oh boy, we
Man.
do. What was his name?
Psycho Man.
Psycho Man.
And his
I like him
power was
already.
Crazy. No, it was we
His
got a
superpower was that he was crazy.
Yeah.
Like Mob Psycho, yeah, sounds
One of those
crazy.
little how-to draw books. And so we literally just like traced.
We would
these
trace
little monsters and
everything.
amalgamations of different creatures in the book. It was really bad.
There's some guys. There's another bunch of guys I want to tell you about. The Diaz brothers. They have a imprint called Zade Comics. That's how they started. They were just loved comics. They had they weren't going to draw them or anything. They would just take photos of themselves doing the things and print them. I mean, they couldn't have started more humbly. And now you should see what they're producing. It is top tier of comic book art. So yeah, you know, they just stuck with it, and they're great guys. They put on a weekly show, Zade Comics, and yeah, they've put out, I think, 4 or 5 books now. So yeah, people out there getting it done, starting from very humble beginnings.
Literally, yeah, they're succeeding. They're getting from El Ghetto, away from El Ghetto, out of El Ghetto.
Our stories were not good. We were
The story was literally, that character looks really cool in this how to draw book. Let's put it in the comic and make it kind of make sense, but not
we
really.
can fight Psycho Man.
Yeah.
You could make a good.
He's a
Psycho
man, but he's psycho.
That's a good superpower. You never mess with a psycho. You know, you never go.
Well, I think the other problem was
Like-
it was also a direct ripoff of Mystery Men. Like
it was kind of a lot like Mystery Man. Yeah, you're right.
We loved that movie as a kid, and so our Psycho Man was basically the the rage. What was his name? The guy whose power was his rage.
The Ben Stiller character.
Ben Stiller's character. I can't remember his superhero name. But
yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't realize it till now, but yeah, it was basically that character.
It was the
like
same guy
in the Batman suit.
I don't think we could get away with it legally.
I mean, right now I saw some of the worst fair use that I've seen in my life with Last of Us. There's a video game that is called The Last Hope. You have to see the video from Most Critical that he made about it
to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for chatting with us. I hope everyone goes out and looks at your book. It just looks so cool, and I love.
Well, thanks for the invite. I mean, it's so cool that this happened. You know, that you found the YouTube channel and you liked the book. You know, it wasn't anything other than that. I mean, that's really the goal of this whole thing that we're doing here, is, you know, finding, connecting with new people that otherwise don't know that this is, this was happening. And thank you for inviting me on. It's been great to meet you guys.
I love seeing just the new wave of just people taking. It's satisfying to see this success while simultaneously this year Disney lost $900 million. So
yeah,
and that's
the cherry on top.
right? That was a generous estimate from that economist that made that.
Yeah.
But it's
Hell yeah.
I admire all of the work you're doing. It looks super cool. I think you're an inspiration. And if I'm being honest, I loved Isom. I think your comic looks better.
Oh well, I'm biased
agree.
as well. I think it does too, but I think that's what you have to be. You have to be your number one fan out there, and that's what I am. I'm the number one Lucent fan. So I think my site is the best and my comic is the best. I'm always happy to meet someone who agrees with me.
Well, as soon as
We
I read
agree.
it, I'll let you know if it was better than the Rippaverse. Okay.
But the art, yeah, it looks way better. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Isom is not bad, but the detail on these pages just looks incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I do put everything I've got into it. Again, I mean, I have to compete. I have to, because no one really knows me in the scene. I mean, they're starting to know me now, but I have to compete with some of these legends who are really making a splash. You've got Ethan, you've got Shane Davis, you've got Kenneth Rocafort. I don't know if you guys know who Kenneth Rocafort is. He's like a art wizard. He can do everything. He can paint, he can draw, he can color. His art is just mind blowing. I got to compete with this guy. He didn't really leave the mainstream. He just said, I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And he doesn't really have a channel or anything. He made 100,000 on his comic just because it's that gorgeous. And yeah, he is. We all call him the generational talent. He is that good. But yeah, I gotta compete with him. So I gotta put everything I possibly can muster into every single page, to be able to turn heads. In that climate. So. Happy to do it, and very happy to hear that it's
good.
It's definitely getting there. Yeah, definitely.
Keep mentioning all these other artists, and I'm trying to Google them while.
There's so many. There's so many. It's nuts. Graham Nolan. I mean, there's just so many. Aaron Lopresti. I could go on and on all night, but I'll have to cut it off because there's so many.
These are the people that just.
These are the people. You know who they are? They're the people that the mainstream decided, you're too expensive. We don't really need you anymore. You're like, we got this people who will draw for pennies on the dollar. Sure, it looks like it's trash, but that's actually cool now because it's ironic. And Mr. Rocafort or Graham Nolan. Graham Nolan, incidentally, is the guy who co-created Bane, who I'm sure you've all heard of.
Yeah.
You're over the hill. We don't need your talent anymore. Even though you spent the last 30 years honing your craft, you're out now. So they go off. They become independent, and all they need to do is sell to a couple thousand people. And that's a good living. Putting out there, and they get to make the books that they want to make, and not have to draw other characters that they don't own. And they, if one of their IPs take off, they could eventually hit a real payday.
Yeah.
And God forbid, get rich off comic books. Could you imagine?
Well, a lot of people used to do that.
Yeah. Back when people were reading them. Back when people are reading them, there used to be those stories, and but a lot of the people who got rich were the ones who went out and struck it on their own. Like Todd McFarlane is probably the guy who, he went out on his own and got rich in comics because he went independent. The guy who created Thanos, the real crux of the entire friggin' 20-run initial MCU thing. I think initially they didn't even want to pay him anything for any of that. And it's just, it's that you got to be kidding me. This guy changed, for better or worse, the landscape of cinema with his character. And, whatever. It's an absolute tragedy what can happen out there in the scene. That doesn't happen with everyone, but it certainly happened a lot over the years. So yeah, go independent, build up your own character, and get rich in the process. That's the goal anyway. That's the hope and dream.
Yeah. If is there obviously if the environment was different and the management was maybe back in the old days, and if you already finished your Lucent comics, is there like a classic Marvel or DC hero that you would find fun to write for or draw for?
I probably wouldn't draw. That was never really my calling. The art for me was always a means to an end. It wasn't really. I was much more interested in the storytelling. So writing, yeah, I would probably just go back to my old favorite, Spider-Man. I think I could do well there. I think I know what that character is about. Yeah, I'll probably just go to that.
Yeah,
It's hard to beat Spider-Man. Well, it's crazy that you say art's not your calling, because you did all of this by yourself, and that's insane.
Like I said, I might be a draughtist. There's lots of us out there. We haven't been clinically diagnosed yet, but I feel like it's the next big pathology to hit the scene.
The
Draughtism.
spectrum. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on the draughtist spectrum.
I'm just
that.
flabbergasted. I'm so impressed by you. I'm out of questions. Do you guys have anything else you want to ask him?
Well, thank you, man.
Like,
Oh,
when
so.
does the campaign ends, or what's your goal? Like, what would you like? Because I'm thinking, when do I buy the comic so I can get it like right away and I don't have to wait, because I don't like
Yeah.
waiting.
Then in that case, just hang around, hang back. It's going to take a while for me to finish it up and get it printed and everything. How I'm running it is very similar to how most of Comicsgate knows how Indiegogo works. I'm running it pretty similar to that. So what you do is you have a 30-day campaign, and then if it's going well, it looks like the momentum's still there, you can extend it for another 30 days. Obviously, I get to do whatever the hell I want. It's my own site, but I think I'm going to stick to that. But what you can do in the meantime is you sort of start taking away some things off the campaign. That's to encourage people to back early and really kind of get the ball rolling. So I will be taking some of the more custom tiers off the campaign at the end of the 30 days, hand sketch stuff like that. The next 30 days, I'm hoping we will be close to or have hit the 50K mark. So I'll be trying to get a lot of buzz with a fan art contest. After that, it gets stripped down even more, and it's more just about just the books and stuff like that. It will be a store. I will keep updating throughout that time. It'll function a lot just like a web store, but it will still be pre-sales. So if you subscribe to my email, which you can find on the thing, I'll be putting out updates regularly, and I'll be letting you know this is how far away I am. I'll be we're going to the printers. Something. Once that happens, it's sort of like on for young and old, and we're back to where we were before I started the campaign, where it's just like you back it, I'll send it out next day. We're a while off that yet. So yeah, number one thing is probably just subscribe to the email. That's your best bet. I promise
Nice.
I don't spam people. It's once or twice a week. Sometimes I'll just shoot down an update, where I'm at with the campaign, what's happening, that sort of stuff.
But you can't. The first book you can buy now.
The first book you can buy now. Yeah, if you want to just get the first book and read that, and you don't mind paying $15 for shipping on the one book, you can buy that. I'll send it out to you tomorrow. You'll get some other cool little prints and stuff with it, but it'll just be the book for the most part. Yeah.
Nice.
So cool.
Awesome.
I might upgrade and buy a T-shirt too. I don't know.
Mhm.
Please do. I'm about to actually go pick up. I've got my first batch because I'm going to Tampa for the very first time. I'm going to America at the end of this month.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big comic convention there where a bunch of us are meeting up and hanging out. I got some limited run T-shirts printed to take over there in a different color. So I'm super excited to go pick them up afterwards. It's the first time I've made a T-shirt for my comic. I come from T-shirts. That's where I really honed my art skills. So I've made hundreds of T-shirts in the past, but this is the first one I've ever made for my comic. So yeah, that's going to be exciting to see.
Just looks so cool. Super excited for you.
Thank you, man. Look, this is the only way we can do it. You know, we talk about how do we change minds? How do we get people interested and get away from the rubbish that the mainstream is doing? You got people out there, you know, all complaining all the time. I think that's good. I think people should complain because that gets more people into the scene and understanding what's happening. But I think what you also need in conjunction with that is just people making awesome stuff. That's really my whole philosophy. I just want to make cool stuff that anyone can read. It's completely apolitical, completely devoid of agenda. I just want to make cool, escapist storytelling, fantasy. I want to make it as cool as I possibly can. Yeah, that's my mission, and that's how we change minds. You know, eventually, and get more people out of the system that we can all see around us. That's just kind of like dragging everything else down.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Amen, bro.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. I guess that's it.
Benmo says, I live there. Maybe I can see you there. It'll be the 29th of July is the day I will definitely 100% be at the convention.
Nice.
So it's the Tampa Bay Comic Con. Come out and say hello.
Nice.
Yeah. Anything else to plug?
Oh, the Tampa Bay Comic Con. That sounds good. That sounds like a big event. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to be meeting so many people. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, I've never been to the States, so there's all these people I've been streaming with and hanging with and following on social media now for going on almost 5 years. I'll finally be able to meet a lot of them. It's going to be a lot of fun. The only thing I'll plug is my channel, Michael Bancroft, YouTube. I stream about 3 or 4 times a week, mostly comic book stuff, some art stuff. Occasionally I'll get into the culture war stuff. Usually the streams are those when I just kind of hang out with my crowd, and we try to just hang out and chill out and stuff. The shorts are where I really kind of touch a lot more on the culture war stuff, if you're interested in that sort of thing. And other than that, the lucentcomic.com. That's where you can grab all this stuff.
The Timescales
Nice.
did another interview with you. Yeah, I've been catching up on all your on your YouTube.
Oh man, it's been a whirlwind press junket, but it's really exciting. It's great that there's this much interest in what I'm doing. I'm super happy.
What's the number that if you hit, you'll just quit your job?
I live in Australia. I don't know if you guys are aware. Australia is, if not the most, it is one of the most expensive places in the world to live. For me to be able to live off this, I would have to have probably 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and be making probably $500,000 on the comic books. So that way I could take a wage from it and actually survive here.
I hope you get there because then you can make the comics faster. So
that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Come to Mexico, man. You're gonna be a billionaire with Yeah.
Don't go to Mexico.
Trust me, we're looking into relocating. A lot of people do it. A lot of people, they scale back, they go out into the country, they live a much more modest life in a cheaper location, and they're able to make their comics. It's a real thing. My wife is French. We've considered it, but right now things in France are really dicey.
Yeah.
So it's not on the cards for the next 5 years or so, but I don't know, we'll see how that plays out.
Wow. Well, I wish you all the success in the world. Can't wait to read the comics. I sincerely hope you sell $500,000. I hope you sell $1 million. Because these look incredible.
That would be awesome.
Yep. Been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for taking time out of your day to chat with lowly old us, and I hope that it got you some more book sales.
Thank you, man. Well, thanks for having me.
You're a cool person. Yeah. Love to have you on the Sunday stream, but that's when you go to work. So
yeah. Some days are a bit tricky for me. I do have to go into the office on some days.
Yeah. Well, our Sunday is your Monday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I think you're super cool. I think I've said that too many times this stream.
I think you're cool too, man.
Now, David, let's start drawing. Let's make some.
Now it's weird.
Let's make some psycho man.
It got weird, didn't it?
It did. All right.
Psycho Man.
I'm gonna end the stream.
Psycho Man, the next big hit. Look out for it.
I'm going to make a
don't
cholo.
look for it. It's not good. It's not going to be good.
Maybe I'll have to bring it and show it over on the stream.
Yeah.
Being a villain is Cholo Man or Mexaman, whatever.
They were not good.
Michael, you'll find this is a common problem with our streams is we don't know how to end them properly. We just kind of ramble on.
Yeah, I have a sort of a script not a script, just something that I say, and it's like, all right, and then I have an allowed show.
That's a good idea.
Subscribe to my channel.
Subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. Go check out Michael Bancroft's channel. Go check out his comic book. Go buy it. There's like 13 days left on the campaign. It ends on the 24th of July, I think. I put that in everything's in the description. Go check out the Angry Mexas channel if you want Mexicas that are angry. And thanks for taking the time out of your day to talk to us.
My channel.
Check out David's channel if you like videos that come out like once every 3 months, and if you like board games, there's also
quality, not quantity.
Okay, David finally did get a job. He lost his job, but he got a new one, so now he can start making YouTube videos again.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I'm ending it before I embarrass myself. Toodaloo.
And now it is time to say goodbye.
We had a great conversation.
It's been fun. But all good things must come to an end, and the goodest ending I can think of is...
Right now, this moment, this night.
So I guess we just say goodbye.
So, goodbye.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day. But come back next week for more outrageous bloopers.
This is the end.
Well, there's only one thing left to do.
I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife.